right knee. Big props to Angels' new manager, Ryan Washington. The Angels have won 4 straight after sweeping Miami. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California, home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising@KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got your Black.
California.
Everybody to the Wild Wild West, a state that's untouchable like Elliot Ness. The track hits your eardrum like a slug to your chest. Pack a vest for your Jimmy in the city of sex. We in that sunshine state where the bomb ass hemp be. The state where you never find a dance floor empty and pimp speed. On a mission for them greens, lean, mean, money making machines serving fiends. I've been in the game for 10 years making rap tunes. Ever since Honeys was wearing Sassoon, now it's 95 and they clock me and watch me diamond shining, looking like a Rob Liberace. It's all good from Diego.
KBLA Talk 1580. Yes, indeed. Well, he's born in El Paso, Texas, but he grew up in Watts, okay? Thus the California love. East LA as well. His family faced poverty, discrimination, former gang member and drug user by the age of 12. By the time he turned 18, he had lost 25 of his friends to street violence, drugs, suicide. He's got 2 different autobiographical accounts of those experiences, which you can read. It calls you back, An Odyssey Through Love, Addiction, Revolutions, and Healing, which was published in 2012, and Always Running, La Vida Loca Gang Days in LA. He's also a journalist, a critic, founder of Tia Chucha Press, and a former gubernatorial candidate. Luis Rodriguez, did I forget poet? Never forget poet. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning, Dominique. So good to be on your show again.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. There's so much going on. I don't know if I mentioned to you that I'm already going to be 70 years this year. And
No.
People have they asked me if I'm going to retire. And I just tell people, I'm not retiring, I'm refiring.
Wow. Well, happy milestone year to you.
Yeah.
You're an activist. I definitely would describe you as a progressive. Is that how you describe yourself?
Well, pretty much. I mean, I've been active for over 50 years, starting with the Chicano Moratorium of 1970, where I was arrested, and then all the way through just taking on the struggle, the social justice issues. Been at it for so long, organizing in Chicago as well as LA and other cities. So, yeah, I've been progressive is I guess as good as word as any.
We'll delve a little deeper into that, but I of course I have to ask you, this being April 4th, the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That was in 1968. You described being arrested in a protest, Chicano Moratorium, which is pivotal in the Chicano movement. How, looking back, your memories, your thoughts, your the impact on your life of the assassination of Dr. King?
Well, I've always lived in black and brown communities. It's been, to me, what makes communities and urban. When they say urban, I think it's generally black and brown. And I followed all that because I was homeless for years in the streets, but my refuge was a library, especially the central downtown library. And the books that really spoke to me were the Black Power books that were coming out, from Malcolm X to Claude Brown to George Jackson to all the books, and then of course Martin Luther King. Everybody that was out there struggling, I gravitated towards. That's really what got me out of gangs, drugs. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be active. I wanted to speak well because I couldn't speak Spanish in schools because they would punish you. I got hit across the face when I was 6 years old in school in Watts, and then they didn't teach us English very well. So my whole struggle was to dominate the languages so that I could speak out similar to Martin Luther King and Jr. and others who were now using language as a weapon, language to bring clarity to the issues.
Yeah. I know, you were still relatively young in 1968. But I know that for people who are activists, the assassination of a political leader like Dr. Martin Luther King, like Malcolm X, they have a profound personal kind of resonance many times.
Yeah, they do, because everybody was being killed, and the people don't remember those times. All the leaders were being killed. The Black Panthers being arrested, I think over 80 major arrests of key leaders across the country. All the groups were being infiltrated. COINTELPRO infiltrated the Black Panthers, the Brown Berets, AIM, the Young Lords, all the groups that were out there organizing. It was a hard time to be an activist, and yet I also found that was the time that many of us woke up and have never been asleep since then.
Let's go back to what you said about getting arrested at the Chicano Moratorium. Explain, for folks who are not as familiar, what happened that day and why you decided to go protest.
Well, it was the largest anti-war protest in the community of Congress at the time. 30,000 people gathered at Belvedere Park in East LA. And part of the reason is because black and brown people were disproportionately being killed. I think the Mexican population was about 6% at the time, but they were 22% of the casualties because they were sending black and brown people to the front lines, point piercings. They were just setting them up. And so there was a huge protest. I didn't really, I went to parties, to be honest with you. But what I found, I was just a street kid on drugs. But what I found fascinating was the chanting, the drums, the organized marching, that people were kind of celebratory, but they were also protesting the war. And 30,000 people, it was quite a sight. And I ended up in Laguna Park, where they all were all situated there, and they had a stage with singers and dancers and speakers. And at a certain point, the police and the sheriff, both of them together, attacked the crowd. It was a peaceful crowd. I was part of the reason why they attacked it, which I always felt bad because some of my homies broke into a liquor store and stole all these beers. And I went back there to get some more beer. That's how my mindset was. But what happened is the police used that because they could have isolated us. You know how it is. They could have isolated the liquor store. They used it to attack everybody. And they went tons. They went with tear gas. They pulled people out of the front porches that were lined up, watching everything from the front porches. The attack was quite bad, and the so-called East LA riot happened after that, where most of William Boulevard got burned down. But the police ended up killing 3 people, and one of them was the only spokesperson we had in media, Ruben Salazar. But what happened is they arrested me because people were telling me to leave. The police were telling me and going certain terms with a shotgun to my head. But others were saying, get out of here, get out of there. And I couldn't. I was so angry that I ran back to the police. I went back to fight them.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I was 16 years old. I was so raging. I'd seen so much growing up, the police harassing us, whether in Watts or East LA, wherever I was at, there was always police presence. I was just mad. And sure enough, they beat the heck out of me and they put me in jail. But here's what happened. There was about 200 to 300 people arrested. Most of them were let go in about 2 or 3 hours. 5 of us, cholos, were kept longer and put on murder's roll. I was one of them. They were going to charge us for the murders of the people that died during the East LA riot.
You mean the people that were killed by the police?
Yeah, the police killed them, and they were going to charge us for those murders. I was there for 5 days and nights just waiting. It's totally illegal. I hadn't even gotten arraigned. I was there beyond 72 hours. It was the Hall Justice Murders Row where you're supposed to be 18 years old. I was 16. I had a cell next to Charles Manson, who was going to trial at the time. It was quite, but it was an ordeal, but it was also an eye-opening experience because they finally came and got me in the middle of the night, and my parents couldn't find me. They didn't know where I was. They didn't know I was in Juvenile Hall. They went everywhere. They finally told them where I was. They went and got me, and they pushed me out because they really couldn't charge us for that. It was the police that killed all these people. And so, but I learned a lot. The damage had been done. I became a revolutionary-minded person. I became somebody that now was thinking, why am I gangbanging? Why am I destroying my life with drugs? Similar to what Malcolm X went through, with Perry Thomas, some of these people I was reading, the kind of revelations they went through just being in the world. I was going through it then.
Talking with Luis Rodriguez, you're more than welcome to jump in the conversation with a question or comment. I always prefer questions when we have scholars, authors, guests on. I like to be able to maximize their time in terms of getting their take and offering your questions to them. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
We must understand the politics of our community, and we must know what politics is supposed to produce.
This election year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the place for politics. Unapologetically progressive politics. And we've got two of the best and brightest to help you cut through all the noise. Weekdays at 1 p.m., it's A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nicolai Corte. And at 4 p.m., it's Areva Martin in Real Time. He's the university professor and distinguished member of the White House Correspondents Association. She's a best-selling author and Harvard-trained civil rights lawyer. And they are both here every day to help guide you through all the this year, because you know it's going to get deep. Get your politics on weekday afternoons at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. with A More Perfect Union, hosted by Dr. Nicolai Corte and Areva Martin in Real Time, only on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your flag.
I'm going out with the girls this weekend. Nails done, outfit stunner, and my skin, I know it's gonna be glowing because I glammed up my shower routine with new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. It smells so luxurious and moisturizes deep into my skin with its super rich, creamy lather that's bursting with vitamin B3. So my skin glows and my confidence grows. Try new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash for glowing skin in just 14 days.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with poet, author, and activist Luis Rodriguez. He's also the founder of Tia Chucha's Press and Tia Chucha Centro Cultural and Bookstore, Cultural Center and Bookstore in Sylmar. And you guys got stuff going on all the time. It's 12677 Glen Oaks Boulevard. No? This is... Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
Well, everybody's welcome to come. It's a wonderful space. It's in a community about 500,000 people, which is about the size of Oakland. Mostly Mexican, Central American, a sizable black population. And it's part of that, the valley that was industrial. GM plant used to be there. And Van Nuys, there was brass foundries, our own industry that brought black and brown people there. There's housing projects. But all that industry went away. So now it's just a working class community trying to survive. And when we moved back there in about year 2000, there was no bookstores, no movie houses, no art galleries. There was nothing culturally going on. And me and my wife decided to create this beautiful space, which has been going on for 23 years, going on 23 years. So it was important to fill that gap of not having books or literacy or arts anywhere else.
You have a couple things coming up. The 19th annual Celebrating Words Festival is coming up.
Yeah, last year we had about 5,000 people show up.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's one thing, it's interesting. You have art, music, dance, theater. You have Aztec dancers. You have books for free. We have good giveaway books. We have booths from community. We have vendors. It's a beautiful thing. No trouble, no violence. The media hardly ever covers it. I'm sure that if somebody got shot, it would be all over it.
Right.
But peace and love. And Pacoima, which is is one of the poorest communities in LA County. But we're there to help uplift those most impacted by the economy and the weird politics of our country.
That's coming up May 18th. It's in Pacoima at 11200 Herrick Avenue. If you want to find out more, I just go to tiachucha.org. It's TIACHUCHA.org. You also have cultural arts workshops starting in a couple days, right? A new series of those.
And it's free. It's free to the community. Like I tell people, in that community, just like South Central, just like East LA, you can buy all the guns you want, you can buy all the drugs you want. There's liquor stores everywhere, but you can't buy a book. We're in the community where we have a bookstore where people can come. And all our programming, music, dance, theater, writing, whatever it is, it's free to the community.
Wow. And I see this upcoming cycle, guitar, stencil, creative writing, lino cut. I don't even know what that is, but lots of different things. Maybe I need to go take a workshop, Luis. I want to point that out because you're constantly doing this work. And as you say, it doesn't really get the media spotlight. We have a PSA running on KBLA telling people about Tia Chucha, but it's fun to hear it from you, and wonderful for you to share kind of that early experience of the Chicano Moratorium and how you became active, how you became an activist artist. Molly Bell out of Compton says, Brother Rodriguez, and many of us know and remember you from the movements, West Side. Thanks for all you've done to explain and share the philosophy of Black and brown. Ben Frank in the YouTube chat says unity is the ultimate key. And Kwamel Allah says that plant built Camaros and Firebirds, which if I never heard that before, you learn so much on this show.
Yeah. The whole low-riding scene is, the mixes of Black and brown. Chicano's pretty much established what you see now with the hydraulics and everything. And it shows up in the West Coast hip-hop. Our cultures have always been interacting, and that's the way I like to express it. Even hip-hop, as you know, is Black and brown. People sometimes forget that. I was there in the Bronx in 1981. Hip hop was everywhere, everywhere. The walls, the streets, people dancing on every corner. There was the rapping and the mixing. There was just so much going on, and you could tell it was a black and brown thing. Mostly black in the U.S., but also West Indies, that area, Jamaica, and also Puerto Ricans. They were at the heart of hip hop. So to me, urban culture in the U.S. is generally that way.
So let's go back again. Let's go back to you coming out of a harrowing experience being jailed as a kid. And I asked you, if you define yourself as a progressive. You said it's as good a word as any. You always said Chicano.
Yeah.
But your mindset changed, and how did you redefine yourself then politically? You haven't even really become a full artist yet, right?
Right. So I got mentored by a brown beret that came to my community soon after the moratorium. And they were working with the most troubled kids because I was somebody that nobody wanted to work with. I'm on heroin. I was in the streets. I was in and out of jails, the gangs. People were writing us off. He saw something in me. And a year later, he got me to paint murals, 10 of them. And I wrote with 13 grandkids. This is 1971. This is the early on. And those murals helped change me as far as getting out of the worst part. It took me a while, maybe not to about 19 years old. I still got arrested more times. I got arrested for attempted murder, 17 of them. The last thing I got arrested for was supposedly fighting with police officers. And I got convicted, and I did serve some little bit of time. But I was already on the way out of La Vida Loca. I was already like, I don't really want to be part of this. I started my heroin withdrawals in the county jail because I didn't want to get pulled into that world. Respectfully, without challenging the prison gangs or whatever was going on, I still wanted to do things on my terms. And the community stepped up on my behalf because I was supposed to serve many years in state prison, but they went to the judge, a handful of people, and they wrote letters. And the judge even said, I never seen anybody do this for anybody. So he gave me time served in the county jail, gave me a local conviction.
Yeah.
I walked out, and I never went back for criminal acts. I never went back to jail for any criminal acts since that time, even though I've gone to prisons and jails and juvenile halls for 43 years to teach, to do poetry, to do healing circles. I've been doing that for 43 years since then. I just decided to go back and help those that I know were still caught up in the system.
And that formula, or I don't even want to call it a formula, that mix of art, politics, and spirituality in the sense of reaching back to your indigenous ancestors and the healing circle piece, that's something you still practice. It worked for you. You still practice it in helping young people now who are struggling.
Yeah, well, what happened is I let go of the drugs, but then I drank for 20 years, which probably did more damage to my liver and my body. And finally, 30 years ago, I decided I got to stop this. My son had joined a gang in Chicago. I had a daughter come in shortly after me, all in bad shape. I had a new baby. I had to change my life, and I couldn't. I tried the NAAA meetings, which I support. I still take people in meetings, but they weren't really working for me. I decided to do Native American Recovery Path, the Red Road, as we call it. And I did it through the Native American Community Center there in Chicago with Native Americans and Chicanos that were into the indigenous. And I've been doing that for over 30 years. We have a recovery sweat lodge about a mile from my house there.
A sweat lodge, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is how I stay on the Red Road Recovery Path. That's just the thing that helped me. And one of the reasons why is because even though, there's Christianity and Catholicism, my family, we all grew up in Mexico and coming here, I decided to go deeper. There was a spiritual way that goes deep into my roots. I'm not against Christians or Catholics. It's just my own journey was to go deeper into my indigenous roots. And the Lakota and the Navajo and, of course, the Mexicas were the key teachers and elders I had. and I've been doing that again for 30 years now.
There's a disconnect, I think, in our consciousness around Chicano, Mexican, Latino people in the West, at least, and indigenous people. I just think a lot of people who are not brown, and even some Latinos, do not make that connection. That those are your ancestors. You're not talking about going on, into a Native American tradition that is not connected to you through your DNA.
Right. So there's three ways that it works for most Chicanos. One is, of course, you connect with the Native Americans here, the indigenous people that are here. There's still a lot of them. There is, of course, the Tongva, the Tataviam, and Chumash people here. There's tribes all over. So you connect with them in a respectful way. But we're not Native Americans from here. We're mostly from Mexico or Central America. So then the other way is that there's actual indigenous migrants now all over LA. Mixtecos, Zapotecos, Purepecha. There's all kinds of tribes that are now here. Some of them don't even speak Spanish.
From further north. They're indigenous people, but they're not native to north to the United States.
Yeah, so they're not treated as Native Americans, even though they're treated as foreigners and strangers and even immigrants, but they're really connected to these tribes here. And so that's the other indigenous migrant group that we work with, those that are still with their own languages from Mexico and Central America. And then the third major group is, like you're pointing out, Mexicans and Central Americans who don't know their roots, don't know what tribes they're from, detribalized. They're mostly indigenous. You look at them, you know they are, but they don't know who they are. And this is the struggle that we try to help with the Chuchas. We have classes. You can learn the Nahuatl language. You can learn Aztec dancing.
Nahuatl, which is an indigenous tongue.
Right. It's with the largest, beyond the Mayan, it's the largest language in Mexico that's indigenous. So we try to go back to these roots that way. And a lot of it's colonialism. We've been all colonized, all of us. And so you have to address those issues. How do you address the colonization of all these people? So we don't try to take anything from Native Americans or even the indigenous migrants, but we try to respectfully and with honor respect our roots, deep into those traditions.
Talking with poet, author, and sometime candidate Luis Rodriguez, continuing the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
We thank you for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden will be talking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today about the war in Gaza. Today's phone call comes days after 7 humanitarian aid workers were killed by an Israeli attack in the Gaza Strip. Biden said that he was outraged by the incident and urged Israel to do more to protect civilians as Israeli forces wage war on Hamas. The National Civil Rights Museum is set to host an annual remembrance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today. The event will be held at the Lorraine Motel site in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was assassinated in 1968. This year is the 56th anniversary of the death of the African-American civil rights leader. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
After a breakout 2023 season, Bazooka is getting the bobblehead treatment on Saturday, April 13th at 6:10 p.m. against the Padres. First 40,000 fans take home the first ever Brusdar Getterall bobblehead presented by Yamava Resort and Casino. Visit Dodgers.com/promotion.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers capped a 5-1 Eastern road trip with a 5-point win at Washington. Anthony Davis had 35 points and 18 rebounds. LeBron dropped 25 with 9 assists. The Lakers are 8-1 in their last 9 games, but they haven't been able to move out of the 9th spot in the Western Conference. The teams ahead of them, Dallas, Phoenix, and Sacramento, keep winning as well. With 5 games left in the regular season, moving up from the 9th spot is important. If the Lakers are 9th at the end of the season, they will have to win 2 games in the play-in round to make the playoffs. The Clippers are back in action tonight at Crypto.com. They play the Denver Nuggets. Tip-off at 7 on TNT. Kawhi Leonard's status for tonight's game is uncertain. He's got a sore right knee. need. Big props to Angels' new manager, Ryan Washington. The Angels have won 4 straight after sweeping Miami. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Imagine with me here for a minute the most beautiful panoramic setting. Maybe it's an endless ocean, waves crashing on a beach, or a crystal clear mountain lake, peaceful and quiet. Or maybe it's just little kids playing in the park down the street. Wherever your imagination takes you, now imagine right smack in the middle of this perfect picture, a piece of litter. Just one piece right there in the middle of it all. Doesn't exactly fit, does it? In fact, even though it's just one piece, now it's all you can see. That one piece ruins everything. And that's the thing about litter. It doesn't take much to ruin everything. One thing's for sure, it simply does not belong anywhere in California. So here's the good news. If we work together, we will change it. We don't have to let litter, even just one piece, ruin your perfect picture. Not anymore, not ever again. Clean California, zero litter is the goal. Brought to you by Caltrans and CleanCA.com.
It's a celebration of a living legend. It's the Farewell Tour. It's Maze featuring Frankie Beckles.
Thank you for the love to me. Sing to me that
Also featuring the soul icon, Anthony Hamilton. Plus, After 7. It's a Mother's Day celebration, May 12th in the Kia Forum. In commemoration, come in your all white. Get tickets at Ticketmaster. Presented by the Black Promoters Collective.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Luis J. Rodriguez. He is an author, a poet, an activist, and a progressive. You can find his organization, his bookstore, and his publishers at tiachucha.org. It's tiachucha.org. Luis, I started off asking about, being a progressive, and part of the reason is because in both the Black and Latino, Chicano communities, you have these big swaths of moderates, liberals, respectability politics folks who kind of feel like, they do things for change, but they don't want radical change. They want to be mindful of our image and how we go about getting what change we deem necessary. You've never been on team respectability politics as far as my analysis. Right. So what is it like as a Chicano or brown progressive navigating that within your own community?
Well, it's teaching and organizing at the same time. You have to give people, expand their consciousness, imagination. People get limited by the world we're in. As you know, capitalism has got a very narrow idea about what to do. You have to survive. Survival mode is very limiting. People are caught up in that. I think we have to expand. We have to move our ideas and imagination. I've been a progressive is a good word. It's all about what the young people are saying. After the George Floyd murder, systemic change. I really do think it has to be systemic. It isn't just a few patches here and there, band-aids here and there. We have to uproot the racist and class nature of our society. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I don't think it has to be destructive because people are talking about things are crumbling already around us. The house we're in is kind of falling down. But I think we can build a foundation of a new house that's based on shared well-being. Something that's not what the system currently deals with. That's based on making sure everybody's needs are met, people are taken care of. People feel that they can be all they can be. And I think that that's kind of like what progressive thinking is. Making sure that everybody's got their needs met, but also can be spiritually and artistically and culturally alive. So to me, it's pretty clear what we're about versus people, like you're saying, who just want to accept them with the way things are, the status quo. The status quo is not good enough, you know.
You ran for governor a couple times. Would you do it again?
I don't think so, because I think it's really young people should get up there. We're trying to consider training young people now. I might be doing some trainings at the Chucha about how to politically get active. But I think what the idea is, don't lose, remember the eyes and the prize, don't lose sight of what we're here to do. It's easy to get distracted and pulled out. Big money is all, politics here is all about big money. And we want people not to be pulled in. I was able to get my last gubernatorial run 125,000 votes. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is.
No corporate money, no mass media, no big media. So to me, it's like, can we do it off that? Can we do it off all these people willing to say, I'm going to vote for their voice? That's where I think we're at now. Can we build that kind of momentum? Because I really feel the Republicans are completely lost. It's fascist. It's all clear. Democrats are all over the place. Sometimes they're effective, sometimes they're not. We really need to have more alternative ways of thinking and policy. So that's where I'm at, trying to create that as much as possible.
Yeah, we're talking to Luis J. Rodriguez. Again, I encourage you to visit tiachucha.org. You can learn about the bookstore, their programs, and their press. I mean, not only is he an author and a poet, he's also publishing others. And that's really important, too, as we see, the narrowing of our intellectual options, the closure of bookstores, the Amazonization of what's available to us. And so you can find out about the others that he is publishing and support a small Chicano-owned bookstore and press. Luis, what can you say, like, after these two runs, aside from the fact that you did pretty well, and you were talking about training young people to maybe step up into those roles as candidates? What did you learn that informed your activism?
Well, one thing is, I know it's very hard with electoral politics to get engaged. It is very tricky. It could be full of traps, but I think you can't abandon it. You know what I'm saying? And trying to get people, don't abandon the electoral. People fought hard for us, as you know. We're still fighting to have our votes count. So I tell people, get active, but do it in the right way. Do it to raise the issues that really encompass all our concerns and to be effective in that. I think that's what we have to learn. Right now, I think a lot of young people are just pulling out because they just can't seem to get anything from which way they vote. But I still think we shouldn't abandon it, but we should be in there with stronger and clear ideas. And to me, clarity is meant, so we have to be really clear about the issues of the day and how to push forward the most progressive agenda possible.
I think, the media definitely overplays the move of Black people towards Trump and the move of Latinos towards Trump and a conservative agenda. But that said, I personally have witnessed some of that happening in Black and in brown communities. How do you counteract that? Is it possible? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think they're doing the same thing that they did with white people who they call the working class that are pulling for Trump. They're using fear. Fear. People are scared. The economy is not going well. It's going better than it was during Trump, but not. So what happens is fear is being used. And I also think, honestly, it's the evangelical right wing. I'm not saying all evangelicals. I'm saying the right wing churches are at least in the Black, Mexican, and Central American communities. I know they're having a very strong push into those communities, and they're getting to think along those lines. I think that's what's happened with the Chicano community that has become pro-Trump, or the few that are, but they are there. They're just being scared, and they're being, by the churches, being pulled in that direction. There's a lot of liberating progressive churches, so I'm not knocking them all down, but there is a right wing, as you know, Christian nationalists that some of our people are being pulled into.
Do you think it's also, is there any impact also the fact that you've got all these Venezolanos, these Venezuelan folks coming who may be fleeing a left-wing government, so more likely to be, like the Cubans who came, conservative?
Yes, I think that's also true, and I know that they're really big in the Midwest and Chicago. A lot of Venezuelans got in there, and I think they are there with certain politics. I think it happened with the Cubans. It was very true, as you know, when the Cubans ended up going to Miami in the 50s, the late 50s and 60s, and they became like a right-wing bastion, especially among Latinos. That's true even, today. So we have all those issues. There is no monolith when it comes to our people, as everybody points out. But there is a very strong progressive strength of people who have fought, who have organized, and want to see real justice and real change. And I think we have to build and organize that group of people to become more vocal and more politically active.
I get a lot of feedback on the radio, on this show, and also my old show, The Front Page, from people experiencing what they describe as anti-blackness coming from Latinx communities. What can be done? What is being done about that?
Yeah, that's a very important thing to take into account. In my community where I'm at, we, especially during the George Floyd murder protest and everything, we put out a lot of our books are about Black Lives Matter, but the way we found it, essentially the way to support Black lives as a way to support all our lives. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we're very much conscious about it. We have books on the struggle of Black people in this country for our community so people can learn. Again, it's education, it's teaching, it's expanding that we're all tied in together, we're connected. But we can't move forward unless we move together.
And I felt like that anti-blackness and anti-brownness is coming, whether it's coming from people entering the country who only have the impressions of Black people that they get from Hollywood movies, or whether it's within the gang culture, or whether it's fear, some immigrants fearing they're going to be preyed upon by Black folks inside the hood. Whatever it is, it seems like it's creating an opportunity on the right where we see the anti-immigrant rhetoric really being accepted by some African Americans, including anti-immigrant rhetoric about other Black people coming in, Haitians, Africans. I think that is at a level I haven't seen before, and I feel like this is something the Republican Party is exploiting really effectively. There was a poll on Huffington Post a few days ago showing that not just Black people, Democrats across the board, something like 63% disapproving of the way Biden's handling the border and feeling that Trump will do a better job. We're getting these talking points that money spent for immigrants is money that could be spent for reparations for Black people, or money that's being spent for immigrants coming in is money that could be spent to get unhoused folks off the streets. This whole framing seems very, very lethal right now, leading into 2024's election.
And it's by design. They know one thing: fascism will come when the rest of us are fragmented and fighting each other. It happened when Hitler in Germany. That's why he pointed out the Jews as the main enemy, just to divide communities, to keep people distracted. It's an old trick, and it's happening in our country now, where people are looking at each other and fighting each other versus the very powerful people that are actually coming in and are trying to destroy whatever democracy we have left. So I think the idea is to really not get distracted, to unite on our interests and our aims. They're basically the same. And I think that's where we're at now. Otherwise, we're going to be fragmented and fighting each other, and the fascism is going to come right through the door. It's already here. It's already happening. Trump represents it, but fascism is bigger than Trump. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we have to be clear that we have to unite around those things we can unite around. there's a lot of issues that all of us have in common. Find those common things. Doesn't mean we should be the same. Doesn't mean we should love each other. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just means we have to have political strategies that bring us together against this fascist drive.
Talking with Governor Luis Rodriguez. He's a poet and the founder of Tia Chucha. So continuing the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You do, and so does Luis Rodriguez, our guest this hour. You're welcome to call 800-920-1580. And we got enough time before Tavis Smiley hits the building. Luis, you know, we talk about fostering unity and kind of educating our own our own communities to counteract what we're up against here. And you keep bringing it back to fascism. You've said fascism thrives when we're divided, that these are old tricks that have been used over time and time again. And there's a phrase I keep hearing with some of these conservative black activists where they're talking about replacement. I got slammed on my Instagram the other day I was talking about white supremacy. I was speaking on Candace Owens and how she is a handmaiden for white supremacy. And she said, well, you're busy worrying about white supremacy. Your replacements are on the way. And I don't know that I quite understand it. I kind of do. The folks saying that the immigrants are going to come in and they're going to replace you and your votes, and the Democratic Party won't need you anymore, and then you'll just be relegated to the bottom of society. It has echoes to me of things I hear from fascists, the replacement theory.
Right. It's really crazy that people would bring that up in our communities, but you're right. It's impacting because, again, the fear divides us. The division is going to open the door for fascism. I do think there's about strategies and thinking about strategies that keep us together. Even in Europe, during Hitler's time, there was a united front against fascism, which united all kinds of people, even those that didn't politically agree against the fascist drive. We got to think about ways to unite on our basis. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, for example, people talk about the white working class. There's really no white working class. There's working class, black, brown, and white. We've always been that way, but they're starting to separate us. The white working class have interests in the rest, different interests in the rest of us. And they actually believe some of them, believe it that they do. This is all part of the white supremacy saying that white people's interests don't jive with ours. Just like we look at black people's interests don't jive with the new light that's coming in. This is just division, as you know. We have more in common, all of us. Better food, better health, better climate, better housing, everything that we all want and need is what we should focus on. But we're focusing on this person from this country or this person's skin is too dark or whatever it is they got to fight each other on.
Yeah. Do you think that we're at a point, I mean, we were just talking about Project 2025, which is the Republican plan to hasten the transition should Trump be reelected. Without hyperbole, do you think that we're in danger of becoming a full-on open authoritarian dictatorship, fascist government here in the United States in the near future?
Well, they're actually saying that's what they're doing. When Trump talked about being a dictator for a day, there's no constitutional thing that allows that. He can't talk about dictator for one day without just being dictator for the rest of the period. You know, they are really seriously, they're talking about it, authoritative. Yeah. They're just upfront saying it. So I think we have to take them seriously and point out that that's not what we want. That's not what we need. Whatever is good in this country, especially with democracy, we have to fight for it to become more extensive. That's always been our struggle, to bring the great ideals of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence to more people, because it was geared to white men with property, and we've pushed it and included everybody. Well, we got to go keep moving in that direction, otherwise we're going to lose it all.
I just laughed because when you said there's no clause in the Constitution that says you could be a dictator for a day, it's a funny way of looking at it, but absolutely, it's the truth. Okay, pivoting just a little bit on the way out the door here, Luis. I know you are connected to indigenous spirituality and practices, and we have a Mercury retrograde and a full solar eclipse on Monday. People are flocking from miles around. It means different things to different people. Astrologically speaking, it means a lot of intense energy and the potential for all kinds of sudden changes, both good and not so desirable. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think for indigenous people, and I think from all over, including Africa and here, is you pay attention to these things. These things, you stop, you reflect, you think about where we're going, where we've been. You have to use these kind of events to be ceremonial. You know what I'm saying? Which means community, be collective in thinking about what's our overall best interest. And you bring in spirit for the struggle that we're in. That's a really important part.
How do you combine that? You know, it's funny. I think about some of the old school guys like my dad, Mary Baraka, and those guys who took a hard line against religion and spirit because they felt it was, counter to progressive change. I think he softened a little toward the end. I don't, at least on the question of the ancestors. But
right.
I think this new generation of activists looks at it a little differently, more close to what you or I might look for, which is a blending,
right.
Of indigenous spirituality and new age thought and a kind of a more radical, progressive movement.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because, as you know, we don't got much time, but every religion is being used. Now, some religions are resistant to being used, but they're all being used against us. Everything's being used against us. So I think what young people are saying is, I want a spirituality, but I don't want necessarily an institution. And I think they're trying to say they want to be spiritually engaged. They don't necessarily want to be told how to believe, how to act, but they do want to live what I think is decent, good, wholesome, healthy lives. Every religion should be about that. If that's the aim of any religion, then that's the direction we should all go.
I mean, and on this day, the anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr., I think it's also important to uplift liberation theology, whether it be through an institution as MLK practiced it, or or Archbishop Romero, or whether it be at Tia Chucha's in a sweat lodge, or at a prayer circle in Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and I have even Islam brothers and sisters who are for resistance and justice. Every religion has that strain, that revolutionary strain of change and justice. Christians do as well as every other one. So I'm not against religions in that sense, but I am against the control that some of these institutions are having, especially when it becomes that right-wing, Christian nationalist thing that's going to permeate our communities as well.
Yeah, which seems to be on the rise in the United States right now. I worry about us becoming a theocracy, as much as I worry about fascism.
Exactly.
Yeah. Luis, we are at the end of our today's conversation. What do you have a saying or a philosophy or a thought that you live by that inspires you day in, day out?
Well, the one thing is that the madness we see in the world doesn't mean that we're mad. And we tend to feel depressed and angry and confused. And I keep telling people that sometimes it's our irreconcilability of our noble souls with the way things are. So I would say hang on to your nobility. Hang on to that part of you that nobody can take away. Keep your dignity intact and keep other people's dignity intact as well.
What a beautiful way to end the conversation. Luis J. Rodriguez, as always, thank you.
My pleasure as always, Dominique. Take care.
And I'm going to go to MLK for our quote on the way out today. Of course, my favorite, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Tavis Smiley is up next. He is one of the premier experts on Dr. Martin Luther King in the country, so I know he will have an enriching and powerful show on deck for you today. Don't forget to tap in with me on social media. Love me, hate me, like me. We're at KBLA 1580 on all platforms. You can find me at DiPrima Radio. That's DIPRIMA and then radio. Please like, subscribe, follow, and comment, and I will hit you back. I'm Dominique DiPrima. History is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, Freedman Friday, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
We thank you for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden will be talking with